This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so transferring large tar files. When does this happen? Let me tell you a time when this happens. It happens when I'm in Australia and I'm doing work on at a base, and I don't have a large amount of bandwidth, but I need to get this file over to you. So, but I know if I send this one big large file right here, like they have in this example, I'll get my mouse over here. They have in this example, it's 38 megs, right? And that's a large tar file. So what most people do when they have a tar file like this, they'll split the tar file up. They'll split it up into 10 megs, and then as you can see here, they have a bzip2 compression on it. You see, so it's not just a tar file; it's bzip2, right? And then they split it up into parts. And so what the fallout of this is, if you have multiple um tar files of that one big tar file. So now instead of me sending this person this one big tar file, I send them multiple tar files of 10 megs a piece, right? And that's still pretty big too, right? And then once you split it, you have to take the tar file and you need to put it back together into one big tar file, right? So they split it. Let me see where they put it back together down here. They're still splitting into 200 megabytes, and that's more sensible to send over. And now, in this instance, we can use pipe to connect the output of the tar command to split as follows. All right, now we need to join after we split. So here you'll cat whatever you have split up, and you'll put it back into this tar dot joined. And then you could probably 9 times out of 10 you probably use tar to uh on archive that tar file, right? And so these are just little tricks that you learn over time. Like, don't send me like one of the big things on the project I'm working on now. Somebody will send me a file, and the file is 40 gigs. So they upload it somewhere, and then I had to download it over a VPN to a remote location, and I'm only getting, and that 40 gigs takes me 10 hours. So I spent a whole day downloading that file. And then once I get it downloaded, well, first off, I got to make sure I got a place I got to have space to download it. And then while it's downloading, you hope that the connection that you're on doesn't die, or your laptop doesn't do an automatic update, right? And start updating itself in the middle of your download, which happened to me. It was 10 minutes away, and my machine was like, "I'm doing an update, thank you," and stopped my download and corrupted my file, and I had to start all over again. This kind of slow process burn that you go through sometimes. It's what it is. All right. So here we're gonna learn about SFTP, which is a natural command for SSH to transfer files, and so it's SCP as well too. Right. So when you install SFTP is a part of the package. Let's go show that. Let's open up a workstation here. And this is going to kind of prep you for our next one when we start talking about packages. Was it did I did last time? I think it's this. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna go to root. I'm gonna become root. The student is the password. All right. Now I want to get information about SSH package. So I can do I can do yum let's do yum search, and I'm gonna do SSH. I think the package is called open SSH. All right, so that's what we see there. That's just doing a search for yum search for packages. But now I can do a RPM dash QA and pipe that over to grep, and then grep for anything SSH. And this tells me what's installed. So I see I have my server, my client, and open SSH. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use RPM dash QILC, and I'm going to type in open SSH dash client. It may be a client. All right. So if you see here, you see I have a SSH config right here. It's giving me files that I'm returning. So let me clear, and let's do servers. Oops, let's go back and see what that was. Server. Let me see. So we have that. Now I don't find my SFTP, right? Let me show you how you do this. So I could say RPM dash QA. Let me grep for SFTP, and I'm gonna show you another way. All right, so I can say which SFTP, and it says bin SFTP. I say yum what provides slash bin SFTP, and it tells me that comes from OpenSSH clients, which I thought it was. Right, it tells me that that's where that comes from. Right, so the package OpenSSH clients installs this package SFTP. All right, well, which rsync? Because we're gonna learn about rsync. So let's go ahead and get ahead of the game. And then let's go back and say, well, yum, what provides rsync? And that comes from just the actual RPM for rsync, right? So with using that knowledge, I know what package I could install, and the reason the package is already installed on my machine, but I could utilize this and say, okay, well, if I go onto another system, I know I need to install OpenSSH clients, and it came from the base x8664 base OS RPMs. We are on RHEL 9. That is the latest release from Red Hat. And then rsync is the actual RPM by itself. So, but what, Tamika, what if I didn't know this was already installed? All right, well, if you didn't know it was installed, cleared, like delivered, you could say yum search um what was it called, SFTP. All right, so we also see we got a VSFTP. That is for your uh FTP is unsecure. VSFTP is secure, where you can set it up to be secure. But that's not what we want. Let's see. Open SSH clients. All right, then yum. Um, give us a listing of QILC, let's do a man on yum. No, I mean man on RPM. So how did I come up with my QILC? So I said those are the I's for install, and then L and C. So let's see. Let's keep going. The C is config files, right? So we may not need config files. Oh, dash files by package. Let's try dash files by package. All right, so let's do RPM dash. Do I want QA? No. I'm making sure I'm right. I know I'm gonna screw this up. That's not it. This ain't it. This ain't it. Okay. Huh, maybe it is. All right. So what I did was, let me show you what I did to get you what I got. I queried QA, give me all, and then give me the files by the packaged open SSH clients. And so it gives me a list of files that get installed, but it rotated off my screen. So I'm gonna pipe that over to less. And now you can see I have user bin SFTP. You also see I have SSH agent. You see I also have SCP. So what I was able to find, I was able to query the RPM database, because the RPM has a database of what RPMs were installed on your system. There's a database of that. And it's not like a MySQL database. It's probably more like a text file database of packages and where they're installed and what's installed, right? And what version is installed. And we'll go here and say RPM database. All right, working with the RPM database, querying the RPM database. So here var file var lib, and then they show you like all, like this is Fedora, but that's okay. The RPM database, as mentioned before, RPM database resides in var lib RPM. You can back up the RPM database by using the tar command, tar dash cf, C for create, F for the name of the file, and then the actual library, right? They're showing you that. And you can back that up and say, okay, well, if it gets corrupted when I do something, I can always restore my database, right? So I can say, and then they show you what that looks like. All right. So here we're able to find out what the actual Open SSH clients package itself, what files it actually puts down. The QILC shows you the config files, like configuration files. But here we wanted to know what files got installed, period, on the system, right? So we see that. So that's how we come up with that, right? So now we got a little bit more information about SFTP, right? Let me go back. Let me go to the next one. And so we figured out SFTP, Rsync, and SCP, and we're gonna need those. Go one more. All right, so here they're saying, hey, SFTP, remote host, remote user at remote host. Basically, they're giving you a prompt. And when you get this prompt, then you have options that you have other commands that you can use in order to do your work, right? And so here they're saying, hey, if you type help, I'm going to give you a set of different commands that you can use and what the commands do. So let's go. I could probably just type SFTP. Right. SFTP --help. All right, let's do man. I hate when they don't lay it down for you. All right, so here they give you your different options that you can use. A batch file, you may want to send it over your file over in batches. All right. You may want to use a different cipher. You can use an identity file like your private key, your limits, and then what you can change inside of your actual SSH config file, right? And then the port, if you may not run SSH over port 22, you may run it on another port. Oh, what happened? I don't know what that was. All right. So then here it says in a SFTP session, you can find out what working directory you're in and what working directory you're not in. So let's try here. I think server A is up. So SFTP server A. And then I can type help. And you can see I can get the different commands that are that you see on the other page, right? And it also shows you what the actual commands do. So if I type by, I'm going to leave. I'm going to clear my screen here. And I'm going to type SFTP to server A again. And they say type PWD. This is the remote directory that I am in on server A. Right. And then they give you another command, LPWD. LPWD, meaning show me what's in my current working directory on the server I'm in. So let's go. I can do LCD over the temp. So locally on my local box of which I was on, which was workstation, on workstation, I just did a CD over the temp. The LCD keeps me local. So if I do a LS now, or ls minus a. Oh, it didn't give me that. I wonder why it didn't change. Oh, because I'm on the thing. It's because that's giving me on the remote box. Yeah. I have to do a LLS minus a. Yep. You see that? So anything that I want to do locally, remember, local for me is the workstation because that's where I'm coming from. So I did a LCD, meaning locally CD over to /temp. Give me a listen of what's in /temp. Oh, I need to do LLS. So anything I want to do, you got to stick a L in front of it because that represents the local, right? And you can do help here, and they'll tell you want to do LM make dir path. You want to do a LLS, a LCD, change your local directory path, display your local listings, or you want to make a new directory here. So let's make a new directory. Let's do L make dir, and then let's put L test, and then we'll exit, right? And we're gonna CD over the temp, and we're gonna see that L test got created locally. Remember, the L is for local. Does that make sense? No? Yeah, okay. All right, cool. All right, so I was able to locally make a directory, make a CD. I was I was able to make a local directory while I was in the SFTP command to transfer files, right? And I was able to move around locally, and I can move around remotely. What you didn't notice is when I typed in SFTP, it didn't ask me for a username and password. And the reason why is because my keys are already exchanged on that system. If my keys were not exchanged on that system, I would have asked me for a username and password. Just a FYI. All right, so here they're saying, what do you think this, what does this make dir host boot, host backup creates a directory? Is that local or is that remote? Where's this at? Where's this, local or remote? That's remote, right? And when you CD the host backup, that's remote. But now let's ask this question. What does the put command do? Is this pulling from the local or is it pulling from the remote? Mm. Oh, we got remote and 2 locals. All right, let's go test it, right? Let's go test it. Let's go test it. All right, let's clear the screen. Let's let's touch a file called test, let's just call it test file.txt. All right. And I'm gonna SFTP server A. All right, and I'm gonna do a LLS, and we can see our test file.txt is there, right? All right, so now we know the first 2 commands are doing something remote. Are y'all clear on that? But what is this other command doing? What is this put command actually doing? So if we're not sure, first things first, let's type help. And we drop down here to put. Put says upload a file. But look at look at the syntax of, look at the options of it. It says put, and then I have some options that I can use, and then I can say local or remote. But we're just looking at what they have. So now we have a file called test file, right? So I'm just gonna run this command. I'm gonna put test file.txt. Let's do that. Put test file.txt. So it's uploading test file.txt to root test file.txt. So what happened? It took what was local and added it to remote, right? So let's just do the theory, because maybe I have a file like that. Let's do put something. Let's just do put something dot text. Let's see something. No such file or directory, right? That's because I don't have a file called something.txt local on my machine to get uploaded to the actual remote location. So, okay, Tam, you say that. Now let's SSH over to server A, and then let's do it ls. Look at there. There's test file.txt. It was just an empty file. There's nothing in there, right? So what we were able to do, we were able to use just the SFT command. This is the long way, but it's just showing you how you can just SFTP and then put and pull. Is it pull? Let me do a man on SFTP. Well, let's go back and do SFTP again. Let's exit workstation. No, that was right. Whatever. Sorry. And then let's do help. So we can put, but what if we want to bring something down, right? LCD put or create. Oh, you can even set up your progress bar. Get. That's what you're gonna use. You're gonna use get to download a file, right? So when I do get, the first thing I need to do is I need to do an ls. Can I do an ls by say? Yep. All right. So let me cd over to /temp, and then I'll do an ls. All right. Remember, I'm on my remote machine moving around. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say get rc local .log, and it's grabbing from /temp rc.local log to local log. So when I exit here, or when I say bye, exit or bye, they should both work. When I do my ls, I have my rc.local log on my system. So I was able to push and pull, right? So I was able to put something over somewhere else, and I was able to get something and pull it down locally, right? So here we did a put, and then now they're saying, oh, you want to copy a whole directory? All right, fine. So put -r for recursive. And you saw those commands in the brackets. I mean, not commands, but options in the brackets for directory. And we just did get, and now they're saying, hey, look, man, don't be wasting all your time with all of that, right? Here's how you move it. Here's how you move stuff around. All right, SFTP, here for our thing, you could say uh, server A, right? SFTP server A. The user is implied to whoever I am. When I say that, when I say who am I, is student. So we can replace this with student at server A colon, and then whatever we want to connect. So it says, hey, I'm gonna fetch this file and pull it down for you, basically. And it says transfer files with secure copies. SCP command, which system administrator widely used to copy files to and from remote systems based on a historical RCP protocol that was not designed with security considerations in mind. The SCP command has a known code injection issue that would grant an attacker the ability to execute arbitrary commands on a remote server. For this reason, SCP would not be covered in this course. They're going to probably remove it from the RPM probably. Although some vulnerabilities were fixed in recent years, not all can be fixed while maintaining backward compatibility. For this reason, Red Hat recommends to no longer use the SCP command, right? In new applications or scripts. So when you write your script, don't use it. And instead, use other utilities like SFTP and Rsync. And here's the vulnerability that CVE that they point to. Remember, I talked about CVEs before. So here's the CVE that it points to. July public as of July 17, 2021. It's a 7.8. It's a moderate impact, right? And they tell you which versions are affected. They're like, we will not fix it in 7 and 8. It is out of scope of support. We will not fix it. So in 9, choose wisely, young lad. Choose wisely. All right. So they didn't cover SCP. That's why they didn't cover it. I wonder why they couldn't cover it. Why I didn't see this flag down here. All right. The SCP command, which is also part of OpenSSH Suite's copies files from remote systems to local systems. This command uses SSH server for authentication and so forth. You can specify a remote location and so using SCP, but they got you using SFTP. So if you're on the exam, and maybe SCP should still be there, but you've been trained on SFTP, and this would be a good interview question. Very obscure, but a good interview question. All right, so here they got a guided exercise. You start up the lab, you SSH over to a machine, you make a directory, and then while you're on that machine, you're gonna go to server B, and here they don't have keys exchanged. So you go as root and you're putting in your password. All right. There's your user right here. You got to put in that password. It's the server. And then the LCD, local PWD. Now get recursively everything in the etc SSH directory. The -R lets me know it's a directory automatically. You don't recursively get a file. You recursively get a folder, a set of files in a folder or a directory. All right. And then they tell you to exit, and then they say do a ls minus capital R. Well, damn, what is ls minus capital R? Well, come over here and let's do a man on ls. And then we're going to drop down here. We're going to go down to capital R. Everything's used in alphabetical order. So here we are. Capital R is recursive. List recursive direct subdirectors recursively. Right. And then after you exit and you're finished and reset the lab, boom, done. You can knock that out. All right, on to the next one. The next one is we're gonna use Rsync. Rsync is your friend. I like Rsync over SFTP, over SCP. Rsync is hands down to me what you're gonna find in most scripts. I think Rsync traverses it is even in Windows as well too. So I like Rsync. Rsync is your friend. All right. Synchronize remote files and directories. All right. So I'm not gonna read all of this. I'm just gonna give you the skinny here. Right. We're gonna jump down here. All right. Now you can rsync directories. You can rsync files. You can same way you do with SFTP, and so forth. But what we did notice is rsync is also its own RPM. So with that being said, let's do what we did before with our other stuff, right? Let's do RPM. Oh, we got to sudo the root. Gotta be root when we're using this. And we're gonna say RPM -QA -- files by package, and then let's type rsync. So it tells us all the files that rsync drops on our system. Tells us all, gives us all the files, right? Gives us all the files that rsync drops on our system, right? So we see all the files that get dropped on our system. User share doc, does that mean anything to you? It should. Should be your friend. Why? That's the man pages for rsync. So it tells you user share dot rsync, and then I have something in there for rsync stats, log filter, get set file times, CVS2 includes, so it gives you information, right? All right, so cool. All right, so rsync command -V for verbose. Hey, give me all my information. Don't hold back. I want it all. I want it all. All right, and it says this option is helpful for troubleshooting, viewing live progress. I'm all for give me everything that you transfer. I want to see it so I know where it fails. Rsync command with a -A archive option enables archive mode. This option enables recursive copying and turns on many other value options to preserve most characteristics of a file. Remember, we may want to preserve SE Linux. We may want to preserve different attributes of that file, security permissions and so forth, like we did with tar, right? So here they're saying, hey, I want to preserve permissions. I want to preserve timestamps. Keep the timestamps the same. The owners, uh, synchronize symbolic links, right? Certain things I want to keep on. It says to include extended attributes when syncing files, add these options to rsync -a and -x. If I got SE Linux set up on my system that I'm leaving and where I'm going, and I want my permissions, I want those permissions to be the same, I may want to include this. I may want to include this for ACL purposes. When I get over there, I don't want to have to redo those ACLs. All right, depends. All right. Okay. Cool. So here they got you SUing it, and then they are syncing files locally with the archive on, and then the V for verbose. So here, let's clear our, clear, exit. Okay, PWD. I'm in home/student. I'm in my home directory. All right. So what I can do, let me think here. Let me go with a temp. Well, let me just ls temp. Okay, so I got a file in there called RH release, and I could copy it, or I could use rsync to do it. But let's use rsync, right? So let's say rsync -av / temp and RH release, and I can just say dot, because this is where I'm coming to. Dot meaning the current directory. And you can see the file was sent over, and if I did an ls, you'll see that the RH release is there. So I could use just a dot because that represents the current directory. What they did was they said from var log to temp. They're not in the same directory. They're not in the same directory. I could also do, I also could have did this, rsync over to tar dir. And now when I cd over to tar dir, you'll see my RH release file is there. Right. All right. It says correctly specifying a source directory trailing / is important. And they're talking about trailing / a source directory with a trailing / synchronizes the directory's contents without including the directory itself. So in other words, if I wanted to do var log / it would have got everything under var log. But in this case, it should have took over the log directory, which is what they're showing you here. I took over the log directory and then all the contents under the log directory, because under log you have readme, boot, blah blah blah. So if I went into the log directory, I would see that. So this is important, right? I'm just grabbing var log and everything under it, and so take that over. But if I didn't want everything under log, if I didn't want the log directory, I could just do var log and with the /. But what that does, we like to call it puking all over your system. It's like what we like to call it is, now I got all these files in my temp directory, and there's no structure of which those files are contained, right? All right, it says the contents will be synced directly into the destination without the trailing /. The source directory itself will sync in the destination before. So that's one of the things here. So now you can see here they put the log in, and then when you go look at temp, it's just all the files all over the place. We call it puking all over the system, is what they call it. All right, so here, what do you notice different here? Rsyncing I'm using the -AV, and I'm syncing everything, but notice I don't have the slash. Notice I don't have the slash to a machine called host A, and I'm putting it in temp. So what happens is I'm going to transfer this log file over to this server named host A, and in this directory temp, I'm going to put a directory called log. Right, so you can see log goes first, and then everything under it. And then look at this. They said in the same way var log remote directory on host machine synchronizes to the temp directory on the host machine A. Right, so they say, hey, rsync host A var log, which is log, right, var log, and then put it in temp. So the opposite way, right? They're going back the opposite way. All right, and so then they have a guided exercise, and then they have a lab for you to go through. All right, so that's the poo-poo side of rsync, right? They don't really get into rsync like that. So rsync via SSH. So now let's look at some rsync commands. Let me see if these are the ones that I want to look at. All right. So here's some options. You can use check rsync file progress, right? To check the status of the rsync, use the -p option. So you could use -a-v-p to check it. So let's go back and look at it. All right. So let's cd to home. So I can just cd dash, right? All right, so let's make a directory in /temp called tar-dir2. Oh, sorry. I don't have a D in there. Make dir. All right, so I made my directory. The reason why I was able to make a directory in temp is because of the sticky bit that's on the temp directory. It's my safe haven. A lot of directories are owned by root, but temp has a sticky bit that lets me put stuff in there, or any other user put stuff in temp. But you, say user 94, can't log in into temp and then delete my stuff. Only I can delete my stuff because of the sticky bit that's on that particular directory. So if I do a ls-l on / and you look at the temp directory, you see there's a T at the end down there. That's the sticky bit. That's the sticky bit, right? That's the sticky bit on it. And we'll get into sticky bits later, but I just wanted to give you some clarification. So I have some stuff in tar-dir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rsync -AV capital P tar-dir, and I'm not gonna put a slash. I mean, I'll put a slash, right? Because I want everything under tar-dir. If I didn't do everything under tar-dir, it would have tar-dir. Let's show that. Let's do that. All right, and then let's just do /temp, and let's grab tar-dir2. And so the -p gave me some different options. I wonder did it call? All right, so here we go. The -p gave us one, the -v, the A archive, V gave us verbosely, and the P gave us, as it stated, well, let me go back. I'm gonna go back here. Man on rsync. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at our options here so you can read it for yourself. All right. And I sometimes I like to cheat and do -P because I know it's an option. All right. So when I look at that, it tells me same as partial progress, right? And it gives me other options. Let me see if that comes up again. Let's see, just use the -P to turn on the use of the Rsync Commands partial transfers this only time, blah, blah. All right, this is option is equivalent to --partial or --progress. Its purpose is to make it easier to specify which two options for a long transfer that may be interrupted, right? So here it gave us like, okay, we transferring. You see, we started out with 19 files too, right? See, 17. I guess this would be 19, 18, and then 17, right? And then it goes, and you see it goes down, right? So if I go over to /temp now, and I cd into the tar-dir. Oh, did it do tar-dir? Let me look at my command. Yeah, it should be in tar-dir 2. And you see the directory tar-dir. And then I'll go over to tar-dir. And then you see all the files. But let's get back to home. And now let's clear. And let's run our command again. This time, we're going to get rid of some trailing stuff. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a slash here. All right. Now when I cd over to temp, oops, tar-dir 2, I'm going to clear my screen. And now you see it's barfed all over everything. Everything's not in the structure. It's just there. And tar-dir is there. That's what I mean about it just spews out everything. So you want to be organized when you're transferring files. You want to be organized. All right. So the other thing I wanted to show was that's not it, is rsync with SSH. And I want to show, I think this might be it. Okay. So you see you have a SSH option here, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right here. All right. Sometimes people change ports. Rsync by default is going to go over port 22. But suppose that the person changed the port. So you rsync and you in double quotes, you say SSH-P and then the port. And then remember source destination, what you want to copy and where you want it to go. You got to understand the order of commands. It is the command, my options, whatever I want it to do. When I say options, whatever I need, right? The -A, the -E, the P, the V, the A. And then I have right here, I got my port. My port got changed. It's no longer 22, it's 3322. Here's what I want you to transfer. And notice the slash. I want you to transfer home, everything under home, Linux images, everything under that. Don't transfer images, folder, right over there, everything under that. And then put that under a over to user 12.12.12 under var ww images, and under that you see that the extra slash, like don't just put it in images, put it under that, under images, right? Right. So that's the one thing I want to show you. There's also one more. One more. All right. So when you're transferring with SSH, let me see if they got the example that I'm looking for. So here's another one. Rsync -e SSH. So let's look at that. It said two options that most users like to include in their command is the -a and the -v. Along with these, you can also use -e for SSH option to instruct Rsync to connect to a remote system over SSH. Here's what it is. But Rsync is gonna Rsync, you could Rsync between two machines, right? Right. You don't necessarily have to pass the -e. You could just do it like this. But notice they passed the -e to invoke SSH and said, here's the source and here's the path of what I want you to transfer. And then they go and then they show you the different port, right? And then they also have the P that we just used, to transfer. And then they give you this whole command, hey, transfer, archive, verbose, show progress, but what's the Z? All right. Another useful option only becomes relevant with remote transfer is the Z flag, which enables compression. Hey, compress my ship over there. Slow that down. Don't try to eat up all of the bandwidth. Compress that down some, right? So that's what they're doing. So use rsync over SSH to back up MySQL. And they got a script here. And the script basically says, hey, Ben Bash, we got a comment here that says create a backup. So we got SSH over to this machine, meaning if this script runs, we don't want to put in no username and password. So they've already did a key exchange, right? And in quotes, we want to do a MySQL dump. Look at that password out in plain text, right? All this in plain text. So you may not want to do it this way, but that's what it is. And then they have an rsync here, delete, dash dash delete. So let's look up that. Let's look at that. Let's look at man rsync. And then let's type in slash to search, and I'm gonna type in delete. So now it's gonna search delete for me here. Shows you right there. Got it right there. Can I go up? It says this allows me to sync CVS repository, blah blah blah. Okay, so I mirror a directory between my old and new FTP sites with the command rsync. Oh, okay. Rsync -a invoke dash delete and then here to there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm gonna sync this over and then I'm gonna delete. Let me go back and see. We could try the command. Oh, not this one. Right. Dash delete. At this point, the script will create a local copy on the remote system, public HTML website directory, and store it in backup local dash copy. Right. And then it says the dash delete will ensure to delete all the files from the remote directory which no longer exists in the source directory, thus keeping both directories in complete sync. The -c is used for compression, right? So rsync gives you a little bit more flexibility than what you would get with SFTP, but you can still use SFTP. I prefer rsync. Rsync gives me a little bit more flexibility. Once I exchange my keys, I can rsync files all over the place, right? And that concludes tonight.